Okay, hi. I'm finished with knitting the cuff on the Godmother socks. The last row I knitted was a row 7 going out this way. That's the one where you have 12 stitches before the first yarn over. Now I want to graft the end of the cuff to the beginning, and that's what I want to show you how to do here. First, we'll cut the yarn with enough length to do the grafting and the tucking in of the ends and be loose from the ball. So how I estimate that generously, so I certainly don't want to run short, is 1, 2, 3, 4 times the length of the part I'm going to graft, and then adding at least 6 inches for tucking in, but I'm going to be pretty generous. You don't want the yarn too long so that you're having to do too long of a pull when you're doing your grafting, but this is by no means too long. I'm going to use a separate double-pointed needle to undo the provisional cast on and free up the stitches. So I've pulled the end of my little crochet chain free so I can unzip it. Let me just show you for a moment how I know that this is the end to pull free. I have a knot in the anchor end, but what's even more reliable is to look at the stitches from the provisional cast on and see that these little V's or teardrop shapes, the round end faces this way. That's the end that's going to pull free most easily. So that's when we undo. Okay, I had a few extra stitches at the end. Now that this is a bit tricky here, this seems to be caught in that. Let me pull that loose. Okay. I'm not sure why. Anyway, let me catch this first stitch and pull that loop free. So now look, this orange stitch is now free, and the green, I can see it holding this next loop. I put the needle through this way. I want the right hand leg to be in front. I'm going to pull the green, and the next loop comes free. And it also shows me the next orange stitch. So I grab that, pull the green, it comes free out of that. And I sort of hold on to both ends to be able to pull that stitch up without it running free. Then I pull the green and it comes through. And I sort of hold it so it doesn't come loose before I'm ready for it. Grab the next orange stitch and pull the green out. This provisional cast on is really easy to undo. That's why I like to use it, the crochet chain cast on. Okay, I'm going to jump ahead now to finishing up the last few stitches and starting the grafting. Okay, we're nearly to the end here. Pull out the green loop, pick up an orange loop, pull out another green loop, orange, green. This one is part of the sock. I'll put it on there. Okay, we've gotten all those loops. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 stitches. That's good because that's how many we need. Now pull up the end and the beginning, and now we're going to graft. Now the stitch base for this lace is garter stitch.
Excuse me, you have to stop.
Okay, we have the lace cuff here ready to graft the garter stitch. This is a kind of Kitchener stitch, but instead of stockinette we're going to be working in garter stitch. Now as I look, because to graft garter stitch you need to have the rows in proper orientation to each other. The last row we did was a row 7, and when we began at a row 9. We're going to be doing a pretend row 8, but we're going to be using the darning needle instead of a knitting needle. Here you can see the bumps, like purl bumps, that are right up against the needle on this side that's facing us, the outside of the lace. On this needle I've got the purl bumps also snug against the needle on the side facing me, but this is the outside, this is the underside. So it's good to have the bumps on the underside for the beginning needle, the bumps on the top side for the end needle, and we're going to be working in between them to make bumps on the outside here and bumps on the underside on this side. Getting started can always be a little bit tricky. Got the yarn coming out of this stitch here, so I want to go here next. We're going to start as if it's just sort of a half of a stitch. I'm going to go this way to begin with and pull them nicely together. Now again, since I want the bumps to be on the underside for the front needle, I'm going to go toward the underside and then back up when I'm doing the grafting. Try not to let the yarn get over the top of the needles. Okay, you see how I slipped one stitch off, came out the next one, and leave it on. Now on this back needle we want the bumps on the outer side, so I'll put the darning needle through the first stitch toward the outside and then back in the second stitch and pull that through. Don't pull it like really strangly tight, just enough to hold them together. Now we're going to continue doing those two steps. On the front needle, down and up, pull through. On this one, to the back and then to the front. Oops, don't want it to slip off the end. Okay, back and front, back and front. So there's different ways to think about it, back and front or down and up, but on each needle it's back and front. Getting into a yarn over here, that's fine. And on the back needle also, to the back and then the front. Slipping off the first stitch you go through and leaving the second one on. And see, we're starting to join them up. So I'm going to work all the way down to the end, and every once in a while after I've worked like an inch or so, or all the way when I get to the end, go back and kind of snug up, get the tension on the stitches we're making to be just right, because here are the stitches we're making. Now snug that up a little bit. Try not to split my yarn. Like that. See, we're making a row of stitches between the end and the beginning. Okay, graft yourself silly, have a good time, and you're nearly done. Keep knitting.